November is National Diabetes Awareness Month, and right now is the season of, well, several holiday gatherings, which also means lots of holiday food for us. For the millions of Americans who have diabetes, though, it can be challenging to navigate. So this afternoon, we have Dr. Kathleen Wyne joining us to go over some ways to manage. Doctor, thanks so much for being here this afternoon.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So let's start with that. We know people who have diabetes have ways to manage a handful of things on a daily basis. But when it comes to the holidays, how does this change? And for them, does it change?
So you just raised one of the important points. When you go into the holidays, you're eating foods that you don't normally eat. And so really what I suggest is to plan ahead. Think about that event, that family event, that party, what food will be there. Look the foods up, look it up to see how much carbohydrate is in the food, and then you can plan which foods you might want to avoid or maybe just have a very small portion. So really planning ahead and portion control can help a lot.
How important is it for someone who has, whether it's type 1 or type 2, we know they're different, but how important is it for someone to stick to a schedule during this, month and a half of holidays and parties and eating?
It is always a good idea to try to stick to a schedule so that your medications can work at the times they need to. But quite honestly, our modern medications give you a lot of flexibility. You don't usually have to eat on a very rigid schedule. You don't have to eat by a certain time. So you can go to that party and eat dinner earlier or later. Again, the key is planning ahead and the portion control, making healthy choices, or if it's a not healthy choice, just not eating as much.
We have someone here in our newsroom who has type 1 diabetes. Does any of this change for someone who's type 1 versus type 2? I mean, being a coworker with them, I know way more about type 1 diabetes than I do about type 2. So how does that work?
So with type 2 diabetes, we really do talk about portion control, trying to be consistent on, say, 40 to 60 grams of carbs per meal. With type 1 diabetes, it's completely different. What we tell the person with type 1 is that you are a normal person who just has to take insulin when you eat. But that is the challenge because you have to know how many carbohydrates you're eating to be able to calculate how much insulin to eat. That's where planning ahead becomes important because you can actually look up the carbohydrate content of all the foods you're planning to eat, and you can have a plan for how much insulin you're going to need for each one.
So you mentioned portion control, you mentioned schedules, you also hinted a little bit at working it off. How big of a role does exercise have during this time of year for someone with type 1 or type 2?
Exercise is always very important because it keeps your body very sensitive to insulin. Your body's metabolizing that food much more efficiently. You don't have to go run, marathon on the holiday. What you want to do is be up and moving. Get up and walk around every few hours. Don't just sit there all day long eating. Go out, go for a walk someone's dog for them. Gather the whole family together and go out for a walk, even if it is cold. Even just 10 minutes of walking can really help you to keep your sugars down.
Doctor, we only have about 30 seconds left. One of the other tips you have is to be a smart cook. How do we do that?
To be a smart cook, you want to think about what do I want to make? How can I cook it in a healthy way? Use the resources on the internet. Look at the American Diabetes Association, American Heart Association. Use those resources to make things in a healthy way. But please always stay positive. Believe in yourself that you can get through the holidays in a healthy manner.
Dr. Kathleen Wyne, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.